Hi, everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we are back again today to, yes, can you believe it? We are going to talk about a Star Trek book today. We have indeed finished up Star Trek The Brave and the Bold, Book 2 by Keith R.A. D. Candido. And, if you haven't watched Part 1, or read Part 1, you should definitely go back and do that. Either one is fine. But this was a fantastic, I guess, kind of set of two stories, right? Now, the first one I did enjoy, but this one was kind of the whole reason that I got into this in the first place, was because I was getting ready to read the IKS Gorkon, right? Good Day to Die. And right before I started it, it said I should read this series. So here I am, and here we are, and here you are. Having just finished this up today, I am very excited to now continue on with this saga. Look at that. Check out that bad Chang class Gorkon right there. But anyway, that's just a small part of what this book brings to the table. But as you can see, well, I mean, they really should have put old Clegg here in the forefront, and maybe like a smaller Picard in the background. I'll be honest with you, he was a bit player, Picard, in this book, and that is what this series, he strived to do, and did well. And it was explained to me there's a very good afterword where he kind of goes into more of it, and I was like, oh, well, yes, this makes a lot of sense now, about how he was trying to show the main series captains and crew and ships as the guest stars of this other ship and captain and story. So in the case of the first one, you had the Constellation, and you had the other one was like Deep Space Nine related, right? But in this one, you are getting to be, again, the first story is a Voyager prequel, right? All right, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Anyway, what we normally do is we read the back of the book at this time of the video. So let's go ahead and read the back of the book here. Continuing the all-new adventure spanning all new... Wait. Hold on. I can do better. Continuing the all-new adventure spanning all of Star Trek history. Two of the Malkus artifacts, used as deadly weapons millennia ago, have been uncovered since their discovery in the 22nd century. Now, in the 24th century, two more artifacts lie in wait, ready to wreak havoc on an unsuspecting galaxy. Star Trek The Brave and the Bold, Book 2. Pause there for a minute. I just want to say this. I love the name Malkus. So Malkus was the dude who millennia ago ruled a large portion of the universe with the help of his Malkus artifacts. Now, one of these artifacts could cause disease. One of these artifacts was a disintegrating ray of incredible power, right? And the two that we're dealing with in this book, we'll get into shortly. While on their shakedown cruise, Captain Catherine Janeway and the starship Voyager discover the third artifact in the demilitarized zone in the hands of the Maquis. Oh boy. With the aid of Captain Robert DeSoto of the USS Hood, Voyager Security Chief Lieutenant Tuvok infiltrates the Maquis and must gain the trust of cell leaders Chakotay and Cal Hudson before the terrorists use the artifact to throw the DMZ into chaos. When the final artifact is unearthed on Narendra 3, it leads to several mysterious disappearances throughout the Federation and Klingon space, including Federation ambassadors Spock and Worf. Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Starship Enterprise joins forces with Captain Clegg of the IKS Gorkon. but even the greatest vessels of two nations may not be enough when the deadly secret of the final artifact is revealed. Oh, that was good. All right, that turned out pretty good. Okay, so now we can actually get into the stories here. And I guess before we get into spoilers, again, I will just say two very well done stories here. And again, it's giving you a look at a character who you only got a brief look at before. So you're getting the other side of that. So let's go back to TNG, and you had Captain DeSoto coming on for like that, what was it, 1 or 2 episodes maybe, or just barely on it, right? In the hood. He was Commander Riker's previous captain. And so now the author has taken that story, or that character, and now we get to see the other side of it, right? So we get to see more of the USS Hood, and the USS Hood is sent out to help the Voyager. And I love this, getting this too, and I think there's a few other novels that do give us that kind of pre-Delta Quadrant, disaster Voyager, right? But this gives you their shakedown cruise. You get to see their engineer excited about trying out this new ship, right? And you get to see I don't know, I'll be honest with you, they don't go too much into the Voyager in that. Because again, you are the Voyager is the guest star in this, right? So the Hood comes in to be the hero, and they help the Voyager out, And again, it's kind of the same with the second story. The second story does feature, Picard in the Enterprise E, but the headliner of the story is Captain Clegg and the IKS Gorkon, and a very, 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 very fun combination of the fighting ambassadors Worf and Spock, and that I was not expecting, and I think was probably one of the funnest parts of the book, and really made me want to see or read more of the Worf and Spock team up dynamic, right? Because man, it's a lot of fun. That's a very fun part of the book, and we'll get into that later too. So again, so all in all, you do want to read the whole thing. You don't just want to read book 2. The covers are terrible. They could have got an artist to draw any other picture, and it would have been better than what they have here. Literally, space would have been better than what they have here. But again, that's just my hatred of photo covers. What did he say about it? Would you like to know what the author has said about his work as we read from Voyages of the Imagination here? Straight from the horse's mouth here. Originally, I was going to pitch it as one big 6-book crossover event. John Ordover looked at it and said this would work better if you pared it down a little bit. So we wound up having it be a 2-book series in the same format as Susan Wright's Badlands. I've never read Badlands. I've read some of Susan Wright's stuff. So does that mean it's in the same format as basically being each book has 2 stories in it? Anyway, we might read that this summer sometime too. Which came out in 1998. We just cut it down to 4 team-ups instead of the 6 I'd come up with. The story was much better for it in the way that I got to write 2 books instead of 1 out of 6, and then he also let me use the IKS Gorkon crew I created for diplomatic implausibility. In the back of my head, I thought it would be cool to do an ongoing series on a Klingon ship, but I didn't think it would actually happen. But I liked the opportunity to actually create the crew and use the characters I did in diplomatic implausibility. This did lead to the Gorkon series. Most excellent, right? So that's all the news that is news there from the book about books, the great book about books, which if you like Star Trek books, then you should definitely have, Now, all right, I guess we can just kind of get into the spoilery section of today's book talk. As you can see, I beat this book to death. I really did. And that's fine, it's my book, If I want to read it in the kitchen, if I want to read it in the bath, if I want to read it outside and get it dirty and covered in all sorts of fire thing, it's fine. It's my book. I do as I wish with it. And I got to tell you, um, I love the pocket book, and I will say this again and again. There's just something about being able to take a book with you, slip it into your pocket, so that you can pop it out at various times. Waiting for something. Boom, all of a sudden you're reading Star Trek. So anyway, it's an advantage that is just a wonderful thing to have. Now, the book itself, right? The first story, very, very, man. Again, there's this kind of whole theme about this too, that wasn't brought up here, I guess, but giving more life to characters and crew that didn't get that, right? So the engineer of Voyager, you got to get see like a little bit more of him here in this book, and it gave you this kind of, I don't know, this kind of backstory on him and how excited he was to be out there and testing this new engine, this new ship, and these new gel packs out and all that. But anyway, in the story, the gel packs go, they screw up on the shakedown cruise. The Voyager goes down completely. Basically, the Hood's got to come in, give them a jump start, and get them back to the starbase. And then, from there, kind of the adventure takes off. And what's very interesting about the first part of the story too is, of course, again, the Maquis, right? And the author is taking another character, Cal Hudson, who was like the initial Maquis, right? You can see him; he's featured right there. He's right there. That's him right there. And if you recognize the actor, which I did, and I was like, I know I've seen that guy before, other than just in that episode of Deep Space Nine. He was in both Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure as he's like the principal, I think, and he was also in Revenge of the Nerds as UN Jefferson, which I think is what I remembered him from. It's like that movie got seared into my brain in the early or late 1980s, right? Anyway, continuing on. The first story is very good, and again, it gives you that look at. So here's this character who inspired a lot of people. He did a lot for the driving story of the Maquis in Deep Space Nine, and he was killed. But now we get to see more of him, more of his crew, more of his ship, more of how he interacts with Chakotay. And the other great thing that this story does is it gives you that, basically the story of how did Tuvok get in with the Maquis and Chakotay. And I love the way they did it. I think it worked out perfectly. And, man, I like, it's kind of a weird thing to think about, right? Because, we all know Tuvok is like the officer, but his infiltration into the Maquis is very well done. And I guess initially, maybe I kind of had some sort of suspension of disbelief, where like, they're just kind of going along with it. But he seems like he's like the most obvious undercover dude, right? But no, he's not. Like it's almost like he's so obvious that it's not obvious. The old dipsy doodle, as it were. Anyway, the people here, the villain of this story, and what's also interesting about all four of these stories is that it is not about the villain really at all. Kind of, in the end, it's all about Malkus. It's all about Malkus the whole way through, but it does not focus on who's actually controlling the artifact. They're kind of like the smaller part of the story, and even in how they are overcome. In most cases, they're beaten fairly simply, and in a lot of cases, even have taken their own life. So the one in this case here was a Maquis who lost. It was an Andorian Maquis who lost all of his mates to a Cardassian attack, and that's three mates. Andorian has three mates, right, in their family group. So he lost them all, and he's went a little bit crazy, and he comes upon the artifact. And what artifact does he come upon? The weather controller. So he does some damage, and there's some very some good weather damage scenes. Like the Cardassians on this planet are having to weather this storm that's brought down, and I think that like it was all very well done and very well written, and like just kind of like a very exciting little part, right? And in the end, basically it kind of leads you right into Chakotay, B'Elanna, and Tuvok, and they're heading off on their mission into the Badlands, right? So it's almost like a prequel to all that. So, book 1, most excellent. I guess book 3, technically. But let's talk about book 4, the penultimate. No, that's not right. Anyway, the ultimate, the ultimate one. This one was my favorite because it did feature the Gorkon, it featured the Clegg, and I had been really looking forward to some Klingon reading this summer. That's what I was wanting to get into, and this book gives me a ton of that. So, and it's just like a small taste too. Like I know that like I'm getting ready to get like a whole big plate of gah. Right, I got a whole big plate of gah here to eat. Right, and this was just a tiny little taste of what I had, and it was excellent. Now, first off, the Malkus artifacts kind of everything comes together at the end, right? They find the last one. Now, the last one is the mind control artifact, right? Now, the artifact that can mind control also contains Malkus's consciousness, of course. I mean, you had to know Malkus was coming back, right? So once they find this thing, Malkus puts his master plan into effect, which if you've been paying attention in the story, you'd kind of seen that he was kind of setting these little seeds in motion in each story. Basically, everyone that has contacted one of his Malkus artifacts is now one of his thralls. Yes, Malkus has thralls. That's two fun words, Malkus and his thralls. That could be a band, too. But anyway, very fun because it now brings back your characters from your previous novels, right? We've still got Spock. We've got a very, very old Admiral Leonard McCoy here. I think he's at 150 years old at this point. Bringing back of course, DeSoto from the first one. Bringing back Kira. Bringing back just all the characters that were involved in the story, but now they're all controlled by Malkus. And Malkus puts his evil plan into effect. Where? On Narendra 3. So on Narendra 3, Malkus has basically controlled the entire population and the ships in orbit with his mind, the power of his Malkus artifact, right? And then he has DeSoto steal the other 3 artifacts from their secure location, not very secure, and bring them to him, right? So now Malkus has all 4 of the artifacts unknown to Malkus. A tiny piece was broken off, and that was picked up by Aduak. Now, Aduak is the scientist who created the Malkus artifacts millennia ago, also giving herself immortality, so that she could eventually stop Malkus and his evil schemes. Stay with me. So anyway, he can't put the whole thing back together, basically, but he's still doing a good job of trying to, really control the universe and all that good stuff. Now, thanks to the combined intellectual prowess of Data and, in a greater portion, the crew of the Gorkon and Talk and who else? Well, many others, but Talk I think was the main mind here, right? Now Talk's a big name. Look them up if you don't know. But anyway, they find a way to kind of negate the Malkus artifact effects, right? So after a good battle, and I like this part too, because basically, so the Klingon ships are enthralled by Malkus, right? Enthralled by Malchus. Oh, that's fun to say. So they're going out, they're attacking. The Gorkon has to fight them. And Clegg, Captain Clegg, of course, is like, there's no honor in killing people that are freaking enthralled. So let's fight to, disable them. And I thought that was pretty cool, right? Um, anyway, that part is excellent. Again, final thing, because we're at the limit here. I've pushed it to the limit, and we got to bring it to a close here. But see, look, this is the sign of a good book, because I could go another 10 minutes. I could go another 10 minutes just saying Malchus and his thralls in various different, conjugations and formats. Final thoughts. They put Spock and Worf together on this. They do a mind meld, and then Spock and Worf are sharing each other's characteristics, and it makes, it's beautiful. It's very fun, very good, and just a very fun read. So anyway, that's it. I got to stop talking about this book because I want to talk about other things and I want to read other books. And you guys got to start reading other books too. So get out there, read a book, read this one, read that one. I don't care. Read anything and support your local bookstore. As always, my friends, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. Live long and prosper. We'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night.